Oh, sorry, I took it.
All right, Alderman Barber.
Here.
Alderman Hassan.
Here.
Richard Budney.
Here.
Frank Presko.
Here.
Kathy Richard.
Here.
Melissa Ferguson.
Here.
Nora Heidingsfeld is excused, and Kaylee Ireland.
Here.
Okay, can we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge
allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have the citizens' comment period. Does a citizen like to make a comment? Okay, thank you. We have two new members. Our last meeting, we had Melissa and Kathy, and today we have Kaylee and Nora. I understand Nora's excused. Welcome, Kaylee.
Thank you.
Could you just give us a little bit of your background, or?
Sure. I think about what you'd want to know. So I'll throw it out there in case everybody doesn't know. My husband is Captain Ireland.
Okay, that's what I was gonna ask.
I knew you looked familiar.
Okay. So of the Franklin Police Department, newly moved to Captain Ireland, so we're very proud of him. Little bit of our family is we have 3 children, all in the Franklin schools. I work for Paychex, which is a payroll and human capital management company. I wanted to join a committee. We've lived in Franklin now. I think it's 3 years. Jason has been with the department for longer than that, but we didn't live in Franklin. We just recently moved here, so kind of got my bearings, figured out where everything was, and now I was like, okay, now I can kind of try to get involved. I've been in mostly kind of sales and sales leadership positions in my career. And then I also served out in Waukesha on the Montessori School Board for them for a year and a half, where I did kind of why I chose personnel committees, because I that's also what I work in right now is human capital management. But I worked for them to do their hiring process for the director of the school. They were struggling a lot with that, so it was nice to get them a person, and she's still there. I talked to her pretty frequently.
Well, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes.
Thank
Be a
you.
nice addition to our group. As a matter of fact, our group has almost had a very large turnover, as you can see.
Okay.
We have 4 new members, and we unfortunately are losing one of our most senior ones, and that's Mike. And I was talking with Dana, and we were going to have on the agenda, but didn't make it. Thank you for all of your service.
Thank you. It has been a very interesting time. I've had a lot of good things. The most important thing is that you're always going to be learning. There's always stuff to learn, and if you go to the other committees, and I found that to be challenging as well as rewarding. So keep learning, folks. It'll all pay off.
When's your last day?
Today?
Is it
For
really?
this committee, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll probably be officially an alderman till the second meeting in April,
Okay.
because that's when the new person gets sworn in. So that's when the transition happened. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So officially I'll be that, but this meeting for the personnel will fall after that date. So then once the election is ratified and the person gets sworn in, they take over my assignments basically.
Gotcha.
Because I leave the assignments, someone else or there's new assignments made.
That's good. I'm happy for you that you're
Yeah,
enjoying
absolutely.
time off.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do with your time?
I think I was gonna practice baking chocolate cakes.
Yeah.
Well, you don't get call, right?
Swing by my house.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, Kath, I need a cake.
Yeah, make them on the third Thursday.
The third of every month. Okay.
So our next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from February 17th.
So move.
Is everybody?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. Carried. Our next item are the revised job descriptions for the secretary positions in the Inspection Services Department as well as the Planning Department, changing them over to administrative assistants. This is in our packet. All the changes are made in red. Take a couple of moments and take a look at it. Joseph?
What is the benefit of making this change?
So right now it's secretary, and we would be changing it to administrative. It is hugely offensive to those that are still listed as secretary. So from that standpoint, it's just to bring everybody to the same level. And then also, clearly there's a salary change as well, which is obviously more important. But I think I should say that obviously you know the benefit of that, the salary change. But again, I think it's about morale. I think it's about trying to stay consistent, trying to do away with the old terminology
Okay,
and bring it more current.
that sounds good.
Are there other assistants? Are they threes then also? Grade threes?
Trying to think of how many we have. That, what is it, two?
All the others are threes with the exception of just over a year ago, you guys changed one of them to a 4, which
Okay.
has caused a few issues, but the majority of all the administrative assistants are threes.
There aren't any twos.
No,
Okay.
these would be the last 2 that were still in as a 2. And they really haven't done secretarial work for 15 years probably.
Yeah, I
They're
did
they're
see.
admin assistants.
They're not taking dictation
No.
and stuff like that anymore.
Any further questions? Mike?
It looks like you're aligning all the duties to be more accurate description of what's getting done
Yes.
in that position, so that's where I see most of the changes to create that language that reflects what actually goes on or happens.
Right.
Dana, should there be a motion for each individual one or together?
No, they can be lumped together if you want.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to look at the second one or no? Or are you fine with them?
I'm fine.
Okay.
So is there a motion to accept the changes for the 2 job descriptions for the secretary for the secretary for Director of Inspection Services and, for the administrative assistant for the Director of Inspection Services, and the second one, the administrative assistant for the community development? Is there a motion to
Yeah,
accept?
I'll make the motion for all that.
Okay,
I'll second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries.
Well, that was fast.
You looked very well.
So, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no,
Go ahead, no.
The next item on our agenda is a continuation of our first discussion from last month, which is regarding the potential changes to the classification and compensation plan, which is in your binders if you have it.
Pass it on each direction.
Okay. Well,
Do you
I think you'll
do you have a
probably
binder,
get
Kaylee? Okay.
coming back to-
Take one and pass it around.
I had to turn my binder in.
I have yours if you need it. It's right here.
Both ways, so you
Both ways?
can, yeah. I don't know what's going on here.
So last time we focused on the compensation and not the classification plan. Is that what we would be doing again?
Yeah, so we just thought we would start bringing in some of the things that we would the low hanging fruit that we think we could potentially make some progress. I think most importantly, realizing that we can't afford to do a huge sweep of everything that we want to do at once, because it's not cost. It's just not something that we can do cost-wise. So I think what might help is to start taking positive steps towards the bigger picture of what we were looking at. And what we wanted to do was kind of talk about some of that. So Dana and I, really Dana worked very hard on trying to determine the ranges, the step ranges. We had talked about how do we take this where we're making sure that we are decreasing that 16 years to get from minimum to maximum? How do we make that more appropriate? How do we compensate somebody that has, let's say they're coming into the role with 5 years of experience or something like that? And that is where you're seeing the step plan, the 8 steps. So the idea is that at year 1, you're really just coming straight in from doing nothing of what you are, that you would be hired to do. And then as the time goes on, of the time that you would be here, we would just keep pushing everybody, so that way we're actually meeting the comparables and also meeting our promise to the employees. So some of the low-hanging fruit, and it's not necessarily on here, but I did want to talk about it. One of the things that I think would be ideal is if we could potentially look to pass the compensation plan piece where we remove the 65th percentile. Potentially do accept this, and I'm not saying today, but accept this range. We've got a couple of people that would be changing from the pay level or pay scale to a different one. We've got a combination of kind of like not necessarily a combination, but we broke out A into 2. So you see the A and the B for 8. Did I say A into 2? 8 into 2. And we're trying to be mindful as well of compression. So one of the low-hanging fruits, again, is obviously cleaning up the secretarial piece, removing that, getting the administrative word in place of it, which we've done with 2, and I think we have 1 more to do, right? Which we're looking to do next month. There's a couple other things that'll be coming forward from the health department along with that, so we figure we'd do that all at once. But start doing that, start looking at updating all of the job descriptions, and also start aligning the levels of where we should be, the ranges, so that way we're not going too far out from where we started with the information that we gathered in 2023. So we can start implementing this.
When you talk about 65 percentile, that's 65% of which one of these numbers?
All of them.
On page 31 of the compensation plan, it says that the Franklin pay would be a little better than 65 percentile of the comparable communities. So they have a listing of comparable communities for equivalent positions, and that if you work for Franklin, City of Franklin, you would be in the top 65 percentile of that. You wouldn't be in the
But
lower
that's
portion.
a different
Yeah, I was gonna
65%. There's
say,
2
however.
different
Oh, there are.
65%.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the other
When we
65?
do the range, the city had made the philosophy that we wanted to be in the top third of all the salaries. So 2/3 of the communities would pay less than us and
Right.
1/3 would pay more than us. That's the 65th percentile that they had passed. For some reason, when they developed the salary ranges back in 2015, they also set the limit on the 65th percentile where employees could not get
So the full
get
100%.
further into the salary range than the 65th percentile unless they got merit pay increases, which just has not happened in the last 10 years. So people are stuck at the 65th percentile here, whereas at some of our comparables like Oak Creek and Greenfield, they can get to the top of their salary range. which means we are being paid less than all of our comparables.
Right, and it's compounding.
So I'm a little confused. The minimum, usually there's a minimum and then a maximum
Yep.
and then a
Correct.
midpoint.
Right.
And when I've heard 65% of the range, it would be 65% of the maximum. Is that,
I actually did a sheet, let me see if I have it still here with me.
But yes, to your point, the maximum on all of the ranges, you're capped at that 65th percentile. So you're compounding the issue basically, because you've got us, as in the 65th percent in terms of the race with our comparables, and now we're also decreasing that range that they can make.
So these are just two examples of salary ranges, Frank.
Keep anything.
These are just two examples of salary ranges, that if you had a salary range from 60,000 to 81,000,
okay,
65% of the way through the range would be 73,650. So that's the max our employees could actually get to. They couldn't get to the 81,000. So really, it says at the bottom there that equals 91% of the salary grade is the maximum you can get to. You can never get that last 9%. So it's even worse if you're at a higher salary level. If you look at the 100 to 135,000, you can only get to 122,750. So that last, 12,000 you'll never see.
And why is that?
The former director had implemented this with the new comp plan. Well, new in 2015.
I think he was hoping that that last percentage, that 65th percent to the 100th percent, that people would have a merit pay plan and be able to get that. We've never developed that merit pay plan. So employees have never gotten it. They've all been pigeonholed below that 65th percentile.
It's very much a bait and switch for people that come in and see, even if you're looking online and you're looking to apply for a position. It's one of those things where it took this conversation to explain that. How do you explain that to an applicant that's looking at other areas to work at as well?
Absolutely.
So it's not real simple. And I think that
This helps though.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes again with the whole let's hit the low hanging fruit, because I think each step that we take forward will help boost morale. Morale is not great when it comes to the comp plan, and it hasn't been for a while. And the longer that they're waiting for changes to occur, the worse I think it's gotten. So one of the things that I had talked about last time was the job descriptions, the titles, the committing to something where it's up to 100%, and also looking at how we can, if we're not doing it through the pay increases that we would normally do, something where we can hold ourselves true to the steps, right? Get them in from entering the door to 8 years and they're at the top instead of 16.
And 16 only got you to that 65th percentile. It never got you beyond that.
you're never getting up to,
Wow.
it looks like the midpoint is somewhere around year 5, according just from these 2 data points. So we're saying then that, in effect, if you're in the year 5 salary range, you're pretty much comparable to the area wages, I think. Can you enter in at a different year? You don't have to
Yeah.
enter into the minimum.
Yes.
Then your step would that be adjusted then? How would that work? So if somebody is out there making the average and they're coming into, say, let's see, salary grade 5 is probably similar to the 60 to 81 that we have on the salary range. So if they're already making grade 5, they're already making 70,000. In order to attract them, you're going to have to pay them at least 70,000.
Right.
Yeah.
If not
Yep.
something
You
higher.
can
So
Pick
then,
any spot in the range to bring them in.
Right.
so then they're coming in probably around year 5 or 6 on this other one. How does the steps then, they don't have 3 steps then if they come in year 5 average range?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
And then they can pretty much, you don't stretch it out
No.
for 8 years and
Right.
for the rest
No,
of
no.
Okay, I guess
Well,
that was my.
Right, and we want to keep that comparableness too. You know, you're coming in, you have your experience. We want to reflect that in where they start. I mean, how many did we find that had even more than 16 years that still weren't anywhere near where they were supposed to be? I mean, we have employees here that are well over 20 years that.
Well, I've been here 20 years and I'm at 57% of my range. Yeah, it just
And
takes forever.
when did you get there? After how many years?
Well, it's been slowly, very slowly.
Oh,
moving.
okay.
Yeah.
So this is part of what we were looking at, obviously. This is a big part of it. Another thing that we had briefly discussed is, again, you know, part of that low-hanging fruit and seeing how we can make a big impact with small steps. And I had discussed with Dana, well, I guess it was kind of via email, but that I think it is imperative that we make sure that we look at the directors or the management group as a whole, and anybody that's under a certain percentage. I think we need to look to get them to whatever percentage we pick, but to that percentage, because it is those are the ones that are hard to hire for. They're hard to train, and they're our leaders, and we don't want to lose them because of the pay.
How does that, last month we talked about, this is nice to say we want everybody up there, but
Where's the
then we
money
got the
coming from?
budget
Yeah.
that says
Right.
we can't do this.
I'm sorry.
How many employees have been here 8 years and are not at 65?
A lot.
And what would be
When we did our
what would be a
last pay
dollar amount?
calculation, when we did our last pay increases in January, and I calculated the worksheet, 29 of our employees were still in the bottom 30% of the range. 14 people were between the 30th and 50th percentile of the range.
Wait, hold on. 29 employees were below.
It's on the
We
second.
didn't pass that
Oh, we
around.
didn't. Oh, okay.
Oh, another handout. Oh.
Well, I was just wondering if
Sure.
what would it take to bring everybody up that has 8
So-
years of service?
Yeah, we had, well, I don't know about the 8 years of service, but we did look at maxing out the comp plan completely as a whole. I don't know if I was figuring. And it would have been 100, or no, $1 million.
A million.
Over a million.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was brought up at the last. We talked about that last time.
I know. I think I remember that.
So, but we were also looking at, there was 450,000-ish that if we broke it into 3 or 5 year plans to get us there, that we would need, what is that, the first year, which is also very difficult.
No.
Which is why I thought if we look at, we take our management team and see who's falling far below, and we bring them up, and then we can at a minimum retain them, and then we go across and look at all the employees and everybody that's under a certain percentage, let's say the 0 to 30%, we bring them up or at least give them some sort of boost.
Yeah, if you're talking 20 or 30% increase, you might be better off doing 3 10% ones than 30%.
Right.
Well, first of all, budget-wise, we
Right.
probably couldn't do 30% right off the bat. But I think most people, if they knew they were going to get 10% increase for the next 10 years, to me, I think would be a great motivator.
Motivation, yeah.
For sure.
Because they haven't been getting that in the past.
So what you're saying, in the admin group, that would be everybody over a salary range 14?
That's your top range, isn't it?
No, that's the top range. So do you mean like the management group?
Yeah.
No, they're in various ranges. What are we at? Like start at 10 or
Somewhere
9?
around 10.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
So
just
they're
look-
within those numbers.
yes. And then the thought process is we look at who's really low. I can think of a couple that really just need to come up. I think one's at 18-ish%. Boosting that to 25 would be huge in retaining that director. Those sort of things is where I'm trying to make some movement and be responsive. And like I said, it's not a slight on any other employee, but management as a whole is just traditionally more difficult to fill that role. So we would want to retain management as much as possible. And then, like I said, look to also bring up those that are significantly low.
Yeah, because then you lose their experience too. Start all over.
Right.
Are you looking to have this done for the 26 budget as to how you want to define that going into 26?
Yes, absolutely have it defined, and as a whole, I think finalized would be great. I don't know, in terms of directors, I'd really like to find the money for the ones that are extremely low, because I do not want to lose them.
And how many was that?
I can think of 2 or 3. I don't. It's not
Fairly
very.
small
It's
number.
not. No, it's not significant. That I'm
Probably at least 4 that should be
right.
increased.
Bumped up? Okay.
Yeah. And some of them have had substantial experience in their own department for many years. And then when you've got their reports coming up on them in terms of the pay, and then they're not getting much of anything for an increase, and it just continues.
And then they're probably exempt employees.
Yes.
And their employees are non-exempt, so they're making overtime. And that
right.
even gets
Right. And that is
squeezes
exactly
even
what's
more.
happening with our PD. They get time and a half, and when you're looking at that overtime, it's taking them far beyond some of our directors. Our director of IT had actually mentioned that to me as well.
Which doesn't settle well.
No, it does not. No. So, in terms of having it all buttoned up and ready to full-fledged run with something, it'd be wonderful if we could get that for 2026. If we can do baby steps until then, I think that would be a huge morale boost for people that have obviously been paying attention, that are concerned about where is this new comp plan, and also just concerned about what the future looks like for them here. As you said, making that commitment to them, something that's
Reassurance.
tangible. That yes, exactly.
Are there any things in the works in terms of increasing the revenue side of?
We are looking at fee schedules I know that the fire department was looking at different billing. Trying to think, the engineering department, we were looking at trying to implement a pass-through, so a fee schedule similar to the planning department. We have it on the private development side to an extent, but just really kind of making sure that our employees are getting paid for their time by those that are using it where applicable and where appropriate, and not by the taxpayers. That's the goal. We've looked at permitting and improving that through the clerk's office. I know, for example, one of the things was it cost $5 to get a fire alarm license, I believe it is, or a permit, and it's just one time permit, and it costs more to do that than the $5 that you're making off of it.
Yeah.
Probably, between the ink, the time, the paper, all of it, it's cost prohibitive. So we want to make sure that we are bringing all of those fees up and matching our neighboring communities, and as you said, bringing the revenue in. Most of what we will be able to work with will come from net new construction as well. So from that standpoint, I could say that we have a better handle on capturing net new construction than what was captured in the past. So I'm hoping that will improve the net new construction that we have been working with as well. I also happen to know that there's quite a few projects in the works that'll bring new businesses here. So stay tuned. Can't say anything, most of them are NDA, but it'll be very exciting to be able to announce those and to see these companies come in and start building and having a presence and generating more tax dollars.
Anybody else have anything further you'd like to add? Any questions? Okay, since we have no motions, we can move on to the next agenda item. Our next agenda item is discussion regarding employee suggestions to the city health insurance plan. I believe it was last month, right?
Yep. Guess there's another handout. So Lieutenant Plasky was here last month and made a few comments as to what kind of things the fire department would like to see happen with our health insurance. So we just kind of jotted down some notes as to what the city's responses to those items have typically been, and I'll just go through those and anybody can chime in if they'd so like. But one of the issues that they had is that they would like to be able to retire earlier than they currently do. They currently can get retiree health insurance at age 53 if they have 25 years of service with WRS. They would like to be able to retire at age 50. It's obviously up to the city and the committee to do that, but that's a very expensive proposition to do. By giving them about 12 years of retiree health, we're paying about $254,000 for each of those people in their 12 years of retirement. So giving them an extra 3 years would cost about an extra $64,000. That's a lot of money for a lot of people.
And how does that compare to other
And we're looking for more money.
municipalities?
A lot of municipalities have completely gotten rid of retiree health insurance and have gone to things like Vivo plans, which I don't know a lot about, where you put certain money into an account and let the person go out and buy their own insurance.
Okay.
Most of the communities, like in the Waukesha area, I think, have gotten rid of retiree health. You know, Oak Creek has gotten rid of it for their new hires. A lot of communities have done that. So they're not enhancing their benefit. If anything, they're getting rid of it.
In that area?
Yeah. It's a huge cost.
Seems like that. Holy cow.
I'd much rather put money towards the things, the previous items
Yeah.
at this point.
Right.
If anything, non-reps only get the retiree health for 3 years. We've had requests for non-reps to possibly change the benefit for them, but I wouldn't recommend going down to age 50 for anybody.
I was saying, can we give them so much money and then cap it? And then they have to come up with the rest?
Yeah. That
Is
would be
that-
a
I mean,
hard-
that's a lot of
that'd be a
money.
hard negotiation,
Because
but
we're looking for money to pay people
To
for
work.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
Well,
To work, not to retire.
Even this is negotiated items. We don't
Right.
decide that.
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
That would be part, that's what they're asking for.
Yep.
If
Yeah.
they value that or say that's important, that's what they should be asking for
Yeah.
in the contracts.
Yep.
All right, but this is the breakdown of how much that really costs the
Yeah.
city and
That's a lot of money.
putting that concept to real dollars.
One of the other things they asked for, and they've asked for it for a few years, is to be paid an opt-out bonus if they waive the health insurance. That's another one to me personally anyhow doesn't make sense, but unless somebody can convince me otherwise. Years ago, the city did have a philosophy that we wanted to take our Cadillac insurance plan, because we had the best of the best years ago, and we reduced benefits so that everybody wouldn't automatically want to take our insurance. We made people at least stop and think about, hey, if your spouse's coverage, maybe you should be on theirs if it's better insurance. So we reduced our benefits a little bit, and because of that, we've got about 25% of our employees now that do waive the insurance. So there's 54 people right now that waive insurance. So if we were to do this opt-out program to try to get more people off the insurance, we'd have to go back and pay all those 54 people that are currently waiving it. And if you're figuring $3,000 to $4,000 per person, it could be more than that. You're looking at a cost of over $200,000 a year.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
And we don't have that
Holy
either.
shit, we-
Not for this sort of thing.
I mean, if they don't need our insurance because they have better coverage through their spouse, what they're
That's
saving
fine.
is the fact that they
Right.
don't pay the premiums
Premium, yeah.
through the city here.
Right. But
And
that's
that's-
their prerogative.
And that's always been the case for my work history is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you're going with whichever option you have that's best.
Right.
And I've never, I mean, of course, I'm not a contracted employee, but I've never gotten a buyout to take somebody else's
Yeah.
insurance.
Yeah, I haven't either.
How often are these contracts negotiated?
Like you
Annually?
said.
No.
The
Happy
labor
birthday.
contract,
Have a good
The
night.
fire,
Happy birthday.
every 3 years.
every 3?
Yeah,
So when would that cycle be up again?
almost 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. The other request that they had was to be able to offer insurance premiums on a 3-tier basis. Right now, we only offer single or family. They would like single, couple, and family. That again is not one in the insurance world that makes a lot of sense for us to do. If you lower the couple rate, you're going to have to increase the people that are paying on the family rate to make up the difference. And there's no correlation as to what your medical claims are as to whether you're couple or family. Because when you think about it, you have the older couple that are maybe in their 50s or 60s that no longer have kids on their plan. They generally are going to have higher claims costs than somebody that's in their 30s with a couple small kids. I went back and looked at the last 5 years worth of high dollar claims. In the last 5 years, there were absolutely no children that were on those high dollar claims.
Really?
It's all employee and spouse.
Well,
Really?
Yeah.
most of, the expenses for children fall under preventative care, which is covered at 100%.
Yeah.
And we have
small.
NICE as
Yeah.
well.
True. Okay.
I mean, we have had a couple kids in the past that I can think of that have had a few issues. Not our super high dollar claims,
Yeah.
and it's been a long time. We've had like
okay.
two neonatal cases years ago that cost some money, but the majority of them are going to be the 50 and 60-year-olds that are starting to have, the cancers,
Serious
the heart
medical.
conditions.
Right.
That's where the money's coming from. So it doesn't make sense for those couples that are, you could have both people on the couple having a high dollar claim,
Right.
that their premiums are cheaper.
And never in my work experience have I ever had that option. It's always been single or family.
Yeah, right.
A lot of places do have it, but for us being self-insured and
Yeah.
with our makeup, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I have it in my insurance.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've
Places-
seen it.
Yeah, there's a lot of places that have it.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, not in my experience. I
Yeah.
just, yeah.
It's, but to your point, it's an older option. It's not something that has been. It's kind of the same thing as the retiree health. It's been phased out a little bit. I will say on the previous one, I didn't get a chance to speak up, but I have heard of not a bonus, but an opt out reduction if they don't bring their spouse on.
I've heard that too.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've heard like a
and
penalty.
yeah, but there's also the reverse of that. There's also the
Yeah.
penalty. So if you do have your spouse and family on in that couples plan, so it has the individual, but if you had the couples plan, there's a bringing your spouse on penalty.
And we've always tried to avoid that because
'Cause
it's
nobody
not
likes to
fair
work.
for the person that has, it's not fair for the person who has a spouse that works
Right.
versus
Right.
the person that has a spouse that doesn't work.
Right.
You're treating your people differently.
Yeah.
And yet if you have a family, say my example, if my husband were to have to carry his insurance, and I would still have to take family insurance in order to cover my son. So now I'm paying double
Right.
instead of being able to choose which of the two plans is better.
And then you're also working towards one deductible versus
Yeah.
two.
Yeah. And the last thing that they had requested is whether we would look at going to an insured plan or the state health plan, because right now we're self-insured. We have never found that that made sense to do, because if you're insured, say the average health premium increases are 10% overall, they're gonna take your full amount, your $2,300, your $2,400 a month, and increase that whole amount by 10%. We don't generally get that. The majority of our increase comes only through our stop loss insurance. We have, I don't know how many of you understand our insurance yet, but we pay for stop loss insurance where if any claims are over $100,000 in the year, we're insured for that and we get payment back from the insurance company.
Okay.
And we have made a change to that as of last year, trying to creep along a little bit to try to reduce that expense. So it was, what was it, 90?
When I started here, it was around 50,000. It's creeped up now to 100,000.
Right. So we're just
So-
trying to be
Yeah.
reasonable with and reduce where we can.
Yeah, so that stop loss premium for a family rate right now is about $310 a month. So that's the amount that we really have an increase on each year. If our stop loss insurance goes up 10%, it's only 10% of that 310 number, not the full 2,400 number.
What
Yeah,
is
they-
the insurance premium?
It's about 2,400 for our PPO plan, and then we have a high deductible plan, which is 2,100 something, I believe.
A month?
Yeah. Yep. Employees pay $275 for a family plan if they're on the high deductible, but they pay $4 something if they're on the PPO plan.
Yeah, when I looked at my W-2, it puts so I have a family, and it put and we're on the high deductible, and it put us at a couple thousand out of my paycheck and 22 and some change out of the city's.
I think that self-insured with the stop loss is
Yeah.
the best way to go.
We also looked at the state health plan, which some communities have, and they do have a lot of different options. However, once they set their rates on what the premiums are, correct me if I say this wrong, because it's been since last year that I looked at it, but they then also look at your experience rating, and if they find that you've had a lot of high usage claims, and within the last couple of years, I think 2 years ago, we got about $750,000 back from the stop loss carrier. Last year, I think we got $350,000 to $400,000 back. because our usage has been so high, they would automatically tack on 30% extra in premiums. So it's just not comparable. It's not the time to move.
And I think
You can
the
only move if
network
your
was-
claims are low for a while.
And I think that the network was a little bit more restrictive than what we
Yeah.
have as well.
Well, they have different options,
Yeah,
but yeah, if you
right.
pick a good one, it's gonna be high. So unfortunately, I don't see any of these as
Yeah.
valid options.
These are all negotiated items with the
Yeah.
fire department anyway, really.
Right, but this is, you know, after Lieutenant Pulaski came in to share, it's just a follow-up to speak to those asks that he really has, his union has the eye on, but I think ultimately we're doing the best that we can with what we have, and I think we need to stay the course, and I think that this is the justification for that, because
We're trying to
we don't have
educate
money.
the employees a
Right.
little bit more as to why we can and can't do some
Mm-hmm.
of these things,
Well,
so.
that comes out in negotiation. That's part of that process, I assume.
Right.
Will anybody be following up with him, informing him, or not?
I mean, we can provide this
Yeah.
to them, yeah.
Oh,
I-
I'm asking.
Yeah, we can provide it to him.
He went through all the effort of setting it up.
Yeah, absolutely.
That way he would know we didn't ignore him.
Right,
And our discussion is in
Yep.
the recording, so if they want to know a little bit more about what we discussed, they can refer to that.
Yeah.
right.
Okay, our next item is our staffing report.
Not a lot of changes from last month. We continue to have 3 positions open for CDL operators. We did send out invites to 5 candidates to try to bring them in for interviews, and only 2 responded, so I don't know if the other 3 have already found jobs. But we'll see how these 2 pan out later this week. Still looking for 4 people for police officers. Dispatching hasn't been too bad. There's 2 openings due to a retirement and a resignation, but I believe one has already been filled and another person's already been selected.
Any questions or comments?
Which of these is the hardest to fill?
It's a DPW now. It's CDL.
Can't say if it's the police or the CDLs. It's both. I will tell you, with the elimination of us having the civil service subcommittee, which used to certify the lists, years ago we did personnel approve that we could hire CDL operators without having their CDL, and that they would eventually get it. It's probably something we still would have taken to civil service to let everybody know about, but it is potential that 2 of these people that are coming in for interviews, that they may have to be sent to get their license.
Is there a time frame to get the license?
We
Can
usually
hire
try
them?
to say within the 6-month probation. Don't know if we can necessarily honor that, because we don't know how quickly we could get them into the class. We're being told that some of the classes at MATC could take up to a year to get them in.
And they're getting more expensive too, like substantially more expensive,
One
is
of
what
the
I've heard.
one of the people I think that's coming in that doesn't have a CDL, I think he's applying for an assistant mechanic position. So I don't think it's quite as critical for him to have a CDL. He can obviously be in the garage doing brakes and repair work without having to be out on the road with a CDL. But that's the direction we're having to go these days.
There's someone that just started, I want to say at the library, Mark.
Yeah, the maintenance guy?
Yeah. My husband knows him. Well, I know him too, but he used to be a sergeant.
Yeah.
So my husband actually buys guns from him. He's
Yeah,
used to sell. Yeah, so it's just funny. We saw him at Target, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm starting with the city of Franklin." I'm like, "No way!" He's like, "I'm actually going to meet Dana." Like it was like the next day or something. It was funny. So
And
yeah.
he knows the mayor.
I'm like, small world.
Yeah.
So He was really excited to start.
Good.
Yeah.
Hope he still is 6 months from now.
Yeah. Because I was like, oh, are you going to be at the shooter shop tomorrow or something? He's like, no, I just quit yesterday. I'm like, oh.
That's funny.
It was so funny.
Okay, our next agenda item, our future agenda items. Anybody have any recommendations for our agenda? It's not unusual that we don't, but so.
Well, I asked for green beer today and I didn't get it.
Yucky.
Hey, now.
I'm wondering if my tongue is green.
Oh, probably might
Let me
be.
see. Nope. You're good.
I'm gonna sell myself out to my kids.
Right?
I don't,
You have to
Gotta
take a
worry
piece
about
home for
them.
That's
They
funny.
do not.
I don't think I have to say it, but I think just to keep your feet to the fire on item 6, be going into next year's budget, which starts basically in September, October. So,
Well, it actually starts for the personnel piece of it in, we're looking at trying to do it earlier, typically June. We're looking at May.
so personnel would have to seriously look at some recommendations possibly for that. But that should be a continuing, I'm sure it will be,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, absolutely. And I can come back to with some real numbers on how many people in management and what those dollars would look like.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But I just get the sense that this is obviously a very touchy subject, and there are some that know that they are not where they should be.
Did anybody have any comments based on the 8-step program, whether it should be 8 steps or whether it should be more or less than that, or faster or slower? Because as you can see at the top, the first couple steps, I had 4% increases, then 3%, and then had it limit down to 2%. All those kind of things can be adjusted, so if anybody
Right.
had different ideas,
I like 8 is good. That to me is 5 would be good, but 8 would be.
5 would be great, but
Yeah,
it would
right.
just be huge increases.
Yeah.
I don't know how we
Well, the
afford
only
that.
thing-
Yeah, I think 5 or 8 stretches it out. 5 would be nice, but yeah, I think it would be like, whew.
The only thing I is sitting in the back of my head yet is if you're going to be doing what I saw management review, there's some people at the lower end that are really gross out too. So I
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
I kind of seed some of that in,
Right.
So it's just not at the top and perceived as being just the top.
I don't know if that came across, but that is what I was trying to say is handle the management, bring them up to like a target percentile, and then also take the ones that are on the bottom that really need to move.
Simultaneous.
Yes.
Maybe we
Yes.
figure out where every single person is on the range
Yeah.
and bring back a spreadsheet with.
Yeah.
Who
The
would
actual
be
numbers
to
or
be-
whatever.
yeah.
That would be good to see.
So if once they hit year 8, they're at the top of their salary range. Basically, that's the highest for that position, unless they change roles or do something else that they would ever make for the remainder of their
But
career.
every year.
But every
go
year it
across the board
increases.
like a
increase.
cost of living type
Yeah.
of increase.
Yeah, and
Okay.
ranges may increase from
Right.
year to year. I would say as long as it's realistic, and once the word gets out, it becomes an expectation, so that when you get 2 years down the road and we're looking at, well, we didn't have the budget, so we couldn't
I was
do
just
it.
going to say that as long as it's in the budget to be able
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, the money's
exactly.
good.
Not that, oh shit, we can't afford to pay that percentage this year. Oh crap, I always forget it.
Yeah.
I gotta watch my mouth.
Is that on tape?
Yeah, we got that.
A couple of times.
Yeah, Kelly, I know.
No, you're not.
Yeah, but to your point, I mean, this is when I had discussed with the finance director hitting the low fruit and starting to make some movement. Originally, she liked the idea, and then she thought about it, or maybe it was just a different day. And obviously, the concern about it being in budget is very real. But the concern of having employees to do everything that needs to be done is also very real.
Yeah.
I'm saving it for just the last bite. Oh, crap.
Let me take it.
Okay, our next scheduled meeting is April 21st. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next time.